Okay, everybody, it looks like we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome you to the SEA EDPass Manager Training. We are really excited for the go live of the EDPass today and know that you all have been patiently waiting to access EDPass to begin creating user accounts in order to upload files. Before we get started, there are a couple of things to note. Today's training will be recorded and posted to the EDFAX Community of Practice site, specifically the EDFAX Modernization page, so that you can reference it in the future. There is a post-webinar survey that we kindly ask that you take 3 to 5 minutes to complete, providing feedback on today's training, which allows PSC and ED to enhance future webinars. Our WebEx platform offers closed captioning in the session. To turn closed captioning on, select the CC square in the bottom left of your screen. As you have questions or thoughts today, please add them to the Q&A log to allow us to answer them as we present. Today's session will be a little different than previous training webinars. We have set it up so that attendees can come off mute and ask. So if you do have a specific question you would like to ask today, please just add question to the Q&A log and we will call upon you and then unmute you at that time so we can answer your question live and provide assistance. My name is Courtney Montgomery. I'm with the EDFAX Partner Support Center, and also joining me today from PSC is Justin Brown and Alec Walker, who I'm sure many of you have spoken to. The state participants today are mainly EDFAX coordinators and other users identified as SEA EDPass managers. Today we'll go over important release dates and today's training objective. I'll provide a high-level overview on setting up roles and user accounts, as well as general guidance. We'll pause and take questions before we play a pre-recorded video that gives a demonstration of logging in and out of EDPass, as well as creating roles and user accounts. We had planned to give a live demonstration, but to be sure that we had a stable environment to show these functionalities, we decided to go with a pre-recorded demo today. After that, we'll answer any questions we've received, so please use the Q&A log by entering your question or just adding question for us to call upon you and unmute you to ask your question directly. EDPass functionalities are on a staggered release schedule. Today, SEA EDPass managers can create roles and user accounts, upload data files, view data quality errors, and update the state submission plan for the directory, grades offered, and charter data files. State users will be able to also do these functionalities given the roles assigned to them by you. Keep in mind that today, you are unable to add data notes, submit, and access the user activity log in EDPass. On Monday, March 27th, PSC will notify users when the data notes are enabled in EDPass. And on April 5th is when PSC will notify users that the submit functionality is enabled, as well as the user activity page. At that point, you'll be able to actually submit data in EDPass. The user guide will be updated for each release. It doesn't look like we have any questions yet, so we'll just keep on moving along. The objective of this training for the SEA EDPass managers is to leave today being able to create SEA-defined roles and user accounts for SEA users in EDPass. As a reminder, SEA users must create a login.gov account and provide confirmation to you that the account has been established before you create an account for them in EDPass. Without a login.gov account, SEA users will not be able to successfully log into EDPass. We wanted to provide you with a high-level process flowchart of setting up a user in EDPass. This could be helpful with documentation you're creating or just to have on hand in the beginning stages of becoming familiar in EDPass. Once you determine that a staff member needs an EDPass account, You'll want to provide the user with information to establish a login.gov account. Next, you will create the user's role in EDPass, which is defined by the functionalities they need to fulfill their role with the data. Create their user account and make the user aware of the EDFACS privacy policy, which can be copied from the account management guide. The user must acknowledge this policy before they're given access to EDPass. Lastly, you'll want to notify the state user that their EDPass account has been created and have them confirm they can log in. If your state is working on documentation for EDPass or needs a starting point, please utilize PSC's technical assistance documentation, which includes user guides and short how-to videos. As mentioned earlier, EDPass permissions are defined via a role. SCA EDPass managers create roles in EDPass which are defined by one or more functions for one or more data areas. A user account can only be assigned one role, but one role can have multiple functions for multiple data areas. This will make much more sense later in the training. Once a role is assigned to a user's account, the user will be able to form the selected functions for all the file specifications and metadata collections in that area. The list of data areas can be found in the appendix of the account management guide. The way roles work, for example, are if there are two users who need access to EDPass to perform two different functionalities for migrant data, meaning one user will upload the data files and another user will resolve data quality errors. Then you would create two separate roles assigned to the migrant data area for these functions to be performed by each state user. When thinking through creating a role, you really have to look at your staff and determine what functionalities for what data areas each user needs to have access to. If you have a user who is going to be uploading all the data files, looking at data quality errors, and adding data notes and updating the state submission plan, but not submitting, then they need to have access to the directory, grades offered, and charter data areas with the view, upload, resolve DQ failures, and state submission plan functionalities checked for both. If someone other than you will just be submitting the data files, they'll need a role that has view and submit functionality assigned for both the directory, grades offered, and charter data areas. There is no limitation to the roles you create, and they can be edited at any time. We encourage you to really focus on the users who need to have access to EDPass for directory, grades offered, and charter files, and then to focus on the users for upcoming collections once the collection closes or the data are submitted and filed. To put the last slide into perspective, this is the role creation grid in EDPass. So you'll fill out this grid for every role you create. Right now, it's most important for the individuals who work on your state's directory, grades offered, and charter data files to have access to the system to complete the activities they need to do for these files. For example, think of the activities Sam needs to do in EDPass with the data files he supports. That is how you should define the role Sam needs. Here are two examples of roles. Another note to keep in mind is that you'll want to assign view access to the directory and grades offered data areas for all roles. This will allow users to see directory and grades offered data no matter the data area they work with. The one on the left is giving the user access to all of the charter data files and all of the functionalities with view access to directory and grades offered, while the role on the right is giving the user access to perform all functionalities for both directory and grades offered and charter data areas. These roles are truly state defined. Create roles for your staff, allowing them to access what they need to complete their job. So it looks like we have a couple questions. Justin, are there any that are answered that could be read?
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So we just have one question right now from Joseph Cohen in PA. Basically asking if the slide deck is going to be provided to us after the training session. And yes, it will be uploaded to the COP site after today's session. And hopefully we'll get that up by tomorrow at the very latest.
Okay, great. So then we'll just go to the next one. So next, these example roles will allow a user to perform all functions for one data area, but allowing them view access to the data area that has business rules ran against the data. This is ideal for a user who only works with charter files or directory grades offered files. Looking ahead to the upcoming data collections later in the year, you may have to create roles for staff that look similar to either of these. These roles provide a user with multiple functions to multiple data areas. There are a prototype roles in the EDPass account management guide, but they're just examples. States do not need to define roles exactly as they're mentioned in the guide. Again, as a reminder, it is most important to focus on the staff who will be working with the files due April 26th, followed by the users who will be working on the IDEA child count files in May. All other roles and users should be focused on after the IDEA close in June, mainly because SEA processes could change between now and then while getting you used to EDPass and the ability to change assigned activities. Please keep in mind that roles can be edited at any point. It may take some time to identify all staff that need access to what data areas and the functions they'll need to complete their duties for the state and EDPass. Use the handy dandy template to define roles prior to adding them into the system that is available on the EDFACS Community of Practice site. It helps to think through roles prior to adding them into the system. And the most important piece, EDPass is a new system with brand new processes. Remember, it's a reminder to begin documenting and or updating your state documentation as you go through the beginning stages of user account and role creation. Use EDPass to your advantage. If you can delegate the task to someone else of resolving data quality errors in EDPass, versus you downloading a report, emailing it out, receiving responses, and then updating the system, we encourage you to give it a try. Take tasks off your plate and enter a step to review data notes prior to submitting. If you have any questions along the way, just contact PSC. PSC and ED are here to answer any process or policy related questions that you have. So do we want to go, are there any questions or should we just keep going to the recorded demo?
Hey, Courtney. Yeah, this is Justin. Yeah, we have a question from Cayenne in Texas.
Okay.
She's wondering if we are the SEA manager, we have access to all the areas and roles. Is that correct? The answer to that is yes. EDFACS coordinators and SEA staff identified as SEA EDPass managers have access to all functionalities for all data areas.
Okay, awesome. That's a great question. So at this time, we're going to play a pre-recorded video of logging in and out of EDPass for anyone who's not attempted yet today. And then there'll also be a step-by-step overview of creating roles and user accounts for state staff. Please feel free to log into EDPass. You can follow along and create a role and user account along with us. And then once the video concludes, we will allow users to come off mute and ask questions. And just remember, if you do have a question, please add question in the Q&A box. And you can use the raise the hand function. We'll call upon you, take you off mute, and you can ask away. So just please hold momentarily while we get the video started. Before you can successfully log into EDPass, you must first establish a login.gov account. For instructions on creating a login.gov account, please navigate to the login.gov website, which can be found at the URL displayed here. When creating the account, you must use your state-assigned email address. Once the account is created, you'll want to notify your SEA EDPass manager in order for your EDPass account to be established. Once you've been notified that your EDPass account is active, navigate to the EDPass website. The URL is located on the EDFACS Initiative website. To log into EDPass, you must first accept the Terms of Service Agreement by selecting the checkbox next to I agree. Then click Sign in with login.gov and enter your login.gov credentials. And then click Sign in. You'll be required to enter one form of multi-factor authentication that has been previously set up. Once you've entered that successfully, you'll be redirected to the EDPass landing page. So I just received the checks for the multi-factor authentication and I click Submit. After successfully logging in, you will reach the landing page. The top of the landing page contains links to other pages in EDPass. The administration page will appear up here if you are identified as an SEA EDPass manager. The administration page will allow SEA EDPass managers to create state-defined roles, EDPass user accounts for state staff, and to maintain accounts and roles throughout the year. The Data Submission List link navigates the state-specific data submission list. This page lists all data files included in the EDFACS collection package and indicates what files are required to be submitted by your state as approached by each program office at the Department of Education. Each file specification or metadata collection is an individual row on the page. So here's an example of the data submission list. The upload link navigates to the upload page where you will go to upload EDFACS data files. And here's an example of what that looks like. The middle of the page contains quick links to EDFACS reporting documentation and EDPass related documentation like the user guide and the EDFACS Partner Support Center contact information. The bottom of the page provides the paperwork burden statement. To access your EDPass user account details, hover the arrow to the right of the user account icon in the top right-hand corner of the screen, and in the drop-down, select View User Account. Remember to sign out of EDPass when the application is not being used. To minimize security risks, EDPass will automatically sign users out after 20 minutes of inactivity. A timer in the upper right-hand corner tracks inactivity while logged into EDPass. To sign out of EDPass, hover the arrow to the right of the user icon at the top right-hand corner of the screen in the drop-down and select Log Out. A confirmation message will appear on the screen confirming you've successfully logged out of the application. So let's create a role first. Hover over the administration on the blue bar and select Roles Management. This is the Roles Management page where you will be able to create, edit, and archive state-defined roles. Once a role is created, it will display on this page in the default order of the most recently created role. To create a new role, simply click Add New Role at the top, and the role creation grid will display. The vertical columns list the data areas, and the horizontal headers list the functions available in EDPass. For a complete list of file specifications included in each data area, review the appendix section in the EDPass Account Management Guide. Defining a role includes one or multiple functions for one or multiple data areas. Let's review the access for each functionality. View. It grants view access only to the data submission list and the file upload list. Upload allows the user to upload data files for that data area into EDPass. If a user attempts to upload a data file that they do not have permission to the data area for, an error message will appear on the upload screen for that user. Metadata allows the user to add or edit responses to metadata collections. If the SSP or state submission plan box is checked, the user can add or edit the SSP for the file specifications included in the assigned data area. The resolve DQ rule failures function grants the user the ability to add or edit data notes to DQ rule failures. And the submit function grants the user to submit data and metadata responses to ED. For the purpose of this training video, I will create a state-defined role for the directory, grades offered, and charter data files. To do this, I must choose the functionalities the user who will be assigned the role can perform and to what data areas. The role name and role description fields are state-defined. There are no criteria for creating or defining these elements other than a maximum of 50 characters allowed. I will name this role char /dir go/ul/SSP. I will put in the description of this role as char directory /go/upload _SSP. I will define the roles with the functions to upload data files and to maintain the state submission plan for directory and grades offered. So in the directory and grades offered row, I will select upload and SSP. For the charter data area, I will assign the function, so here's the charter role, of view, upload, and resolve DQ rule failures. Once the role has been defined, scroll to the bottom of the page and click Save. A green confirmation message will appear at the top of the screen confirming that the role has been created. Select the back button to return to the roles administration landing page. To confirm that the role I just created was actually saved, I can use the search bar. Typing in the search bar will trigger the page to automatically filter to the roles that meet the criteria. So I will enter CHR, and here is the role that I just created. Note that EDPass will automatically assign a role abbreviation ID, which is found in the first column. This attribute cannot be changed and is simply for saving to the EDPass database. If you want to view the details of the role, you can click View Details. To edit a role, simply click the Edit button. The Duplicate button will make a copy of the role to save time on creating a new one. And if you choose to duplicate a role, the data areas and functionalities can be altered and/or changed, and the role name and description must be unique. To create a new EDPass user account, hover over Administration in the blue bar at the top and click User Management. Before you create a new user, you must confirm that your staff member has established a login.gov account. If they have not created a login.gov account, they will not be able to successfully log into EDPass with their EDPass account. The login.gov account should be created before you create the EDPass account. Now moving on. This page will display all user accounts, both active and inactive. To create a new EDPass account, I will simply click Add New User. I will enter the user's information on this page. I can enter the last name, first name, the work email address, and this should be the state assigned email per ED's requirement. I will enter the phone number. The identity provider will be login.gov. Selecting login.gov is what connects the user's EDPass account to their login.gov account for multi-factor authentication. As previously mentioned, if the user has not established a login.gov account and attempts to log into EDPass with their EDPass account information, they will not be able to successfully log into EDPass. Their username entered is going to be the email address that the user used to create their login.gov account. If it is a different email than what they used to establish their login.gov account, they will not be able to successfully log in. The user type and state agency are not editable fields. They are pre-filled to state agency user and then your assigned state. To assign the role, use the drop-down and find the role assigned during role creation. So I'm going to scroll here, and here's the one that we just created. If I select back or cancel buttons, a pop-up message will appear asking if I'd like to stay or leave without saving. Click stay, and then continue creating the user's account. I'm going to select save, and a green confirmation message will appear at the top of the screen. Please note that after selecting save, deactivate user and edit buttons will appear on the screen. Selecting back will bring you to the list of user accounts for the state, and you can see the new user account with the role assigned. To deactivate a user account, select View Details, and then simply select Deactivate. The screen will automatically return you back to the main user management page. If I find that user's account, we can see that the status now displays as inactive. To reactivate the user in the event that you accidentally deactivated or a staff member returned and needs an EDPass account again, copy that name so you can find them to reactivate and select View Details and Activate User. The screen will automatically return you to the user management page, and the user now will display a status of active. Now that the presentation has concluded, we will open the questions part of the webinar. If you have a question and you'd like to be taken off mute to ask, please use the raise hand function and we will get to you as soon as possible. We hope you enjoyed the video.
Hey everyone, we have some questions in the Q&A box. I'm just going to go ahead and read those aloud. So we have a question from Linda Major in Virginia. She mentions, does the system allow you to force users to submit before you review? That's a great question. Pretty much you can provide the user with the resolve data quality notes functionality and not the submit functionality. This will allow a user to add data quality notes, but not submit data in EDPass. So that's a great technical question. We have a question from Fawn in Michigan. Does view function permission allow a user to see the data in the file that was uploaded? Great question, Fawn. Answer to that would be view provides the user access to state submission plan, SSP, comments, metadata survey responses, if applicable, data and data quality reports, and associated data notes. This function does not provide edit permissions. We also have a question from Tara Dominguez in North Carolina. Will the system notify a new user they have an account? The answer to that is no. EDPass does not send automated emails. The SEA EDPass manager will need to notify users when their EDPass account is established, which should be after the login.gov account is established, and provide a copy of the privacy notice to that user who must acknowledge that policy upon receipt. We also have another question from Kyan in Texas. Does the metadata role most closely align to people who only submit responses to surveys such as assessment, metadata survey, and IDEA dispute resolution survey? The answer to that is yes, that is accurate. That is all the questions that we have in the Q&A log at this point with answers.
Before we go to anybody who wants to come off mute, I did want to mention if there is something you want to see in the system, Justin is ready to go to pull up his screen if you want him to go through, say, hey, can you, go to that part again? We're ready to go for that. So if you want to see the system again, just let him know and we'll go ahead and pull that up for you.
Hey, Courtney. This is Alec. It looks like Tara Dominguez has their hand raised. So, Tara, I'm going to give you access to unmute yourself right now. So, if you'd like to ask a question verbally, go ahead and unmute yourself. If not, you can remain muted. All right, Tara. Doesn't look like you came off mute, so we're going to go ahead and move on. If you'd like to unmute yourself later on, please feel free. You can ask your question. Oh, it looks like you've unmuted. Hi, Tara. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon, and thank you for your demonstration today. I'd like to clarify the comment regarding if the user would be notified about their account. The answer was that we need to provide a copy of a privacy notice to the user who must acknowledge the policy upon receipt. Can you describe that a little bit more, please?
So the privacy policy is in the user account management guide. And you can send it to them from there. I believe you can copy and paste, just correct me if I'm wrong, it over to them just for them to acknowledge before they log into EDPass.
All right. Thank you, Courtney. So Tara, it does look like you are muted again, but if you'd like to raise your hand, if you have any follow-up questions, please let us know, and we can unmute you. I do want to move on to another individual who has their hand raised, Brian Worth. Brian, I just gave you access to unmute if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask your question verbally.
Really, my question was the same as the last one. Just one last piece of clarification on our responsibility for that privacy notice. So we notify the user via an email. They send an email back that basically says, does it need to specifically say they acknowledge that privacy notice? And then we, just put those emails into a folder if ever needed in the future. Is that our level of responsibility for that?
Yeah, this is Barbara Tim, who's the system owner. There's a slight misunderstanding on this, and no, you do not need an acknowledgement. All you need is to distribute the privacy notice the same way that your bank sends you a privacy notice. Just make sure that you have some record that you did send it. You do not need an acknowledgement that they received it. So it's just the same as your bank, where they, or any financial institution that sends you a note once a year and has a little privacy notice on it. That's all that needs to happen. Sorry for the misunderstanding about that.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for the clarification.
Yes, thank you, Barbara. Sorry about that for the misunderstanding.
Thanks, Barb. We have a couple other questions in the Q&A. I just wanted to run through those real quick here. We have Sammy in Mississippi. How do I make a correction to a user management role? Right now, it will not allow me to do so. The answer to that would be you select View Details of the role and select Edit in the top right. That will put the screen in edit mode for you to make updates. This process is the same on the user management page and role management page. We also have a question from Joe in PA. How long must we wait for a user to receive notification from login.gov before we create their EDPass account, or are we able to do so after the user creates the account? Great question, Joe. You are able to do so after they create the login.gov account. We also have another question from Jenna in California. Can you review the username portion again? Are we required to enter their phone number in creating their account? The answer to that is username should be the email address used to sign for login.gov. As for the phone number, I'm pretty sure you can just put a generic one in there at first, and then you can edit and update that once you have that, just to at least get the user in the system. Okay. And we have another question from Joe in PA. My 029 SEA level file is showing it is ready to submit to EDFax, but I have not loaded any data. Was data from last year uploaded by Ed on the SEA level for school year 22-23? The FS 029 state level file was rolled over from 21-22 to answer that question. And that is all the questions that we have present at this time.
I would just like to remind everyone that this is a working session. We will be here until 3 regardless of if questions are still coming in. So if you hop off here and you log into EDPass and you're like, holy cow, I actually don't understand, please come back in and we will help you any way you can. Justin, like I said, can share his screen, hop in the system, whatever you guys need. We will be here until 3. So don't feel like you have to try to get everything in now. If you want to go in and try and then come back, we will be here. So that's just a quick reminder.
Hey everyone, looks like Candy Johnson is requesting to go off mute. So Candy just sent you a request to ask your question. Oh, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. Could you try again? Oh, looks like you went back on mute, so just gave you another request.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. This isn't really a question, but I just want a comment. I went in and I created a role, and then I created and added a user. And then I decided that I wanted to change the name of the role. So I went into the role. But when I go back and I look at my person, they still have the old role name. So the only way if you brought the person up and looked at their detail, it showed the new role name. But when you get your list of people, it still had the old name. It's kind of weird. So if you go into that person, you have to edit their role name, even though it's showing the correct one, and hit save, and it fixed it. Did that confuse you completely?
No, that didn't confuse us. I really appreciate the comment. I'm sure others will have that question. So you wanted to
I was confused at first, but if you keep on it, and then I just decided to hit the edit button and hit save, and then it worked. So I'm just
that's awesome. Thank you so much for that comment.
Okay.
That's very helpful.
Hey everyone, we have a question from Brian in Wyoming in the Q&A panel, mentioning if kind of piggybacking off of Joe's question from PA, but we will want to upload our new 22-23 state level directory into EDPass. Is that correct? The answer to that would be you should not have to make updates to your state level directory file, but if you do, you can re-upload the file. We also have a question from Louisiana. The system asked one-time code when I sign in. Can it be skipped? The answer to that is the multi-factor authentication, MFA, and it must be entered to access EDPass. That's all the questions that we have at this point in the Q&A panel.
Thanks, Justin. Does look like we have another hand raised from Linda Major. Linda, I'm just giving you the ability to unmute yourself if you'd like to ask your question verbally.
Can you hear me?
Hi, Linda. Yes, we can hear you.
Hi. So I actually have a few questions. My first question is in regard to managing roles. I've managed roles for a CIS, and it was a lot of work to keep track of the number of people. And I understand that this will be a much smaller scale because of the number of people who will need access to it versus a student information system. But would you recommend that we create our roles for, instead of the person, the actual job that somebody's performing? Um, because if we get too involved in the role for the person and people move a lot, wouldn't it be easier to transition the position role versus the person role?
This is Barbara Tim again, the system owner. Yes, what you're describing is excellent. If you can make the roles assigned to a role or a position in your SEA, that's the best way to do it.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you
Again,
for that.
you're welcome. This is just, again, maybe a little bit broader background for those of you on the phone about what's going on. So I'm the information system owner for the Department of Ed, and we are required to match up to federal government-wide security controls. And that's why the system is now two-factor. As was mentioned, you'll do login.gov, and then it will ask you for a second factor before you can get into the system. That is also why we've gone to this state-managed user role approach. So when you set up somebody's role, both in the guide and in the system, it will kind of ask you to confirm that this person needs or requires access to the system. And then you provide them with a privacy note. Again, that's just like anything else you do in the world where you give them your name and some information, they give you back a privacy notice. The other piece of this is once a year, we will be sending you a note saying you need to go back through everybody you've given access to and confirm that they still need that access. And if they don't, then you disconnect them. You'll be asked as the SEA EDPass managers every quarter to confirm that you're still the right person. And I admit that this is going to be kind of a bother to you, that 4 times a year we're going to knock on your door and say, please confirm that you are the EDPass manager. But it is a federal requirement that when you have the access that we've given you to set up other people within the application, we are required to quarterly confirm that you are still that person. So you will be getting regular notices from the PSC asking you to confirm that you are the EDPass manager.
I'm still unmuted. You mind if I ask another one?
Hi, Linda. Yes, of course. Please
Okay.
ask any other questions you have.
Thank you. And thank you, Barbara. I appreciate that information. My question is on the MFA still. I'm going back to that because I have been communicating back and forth with my tech department to find out what's allowable. Um, and what I don't want to do is position myself to only have the text message and something happening and I don't have my phone and I can't get in. But at the same time, I don't want to violate policy. Um, so, is there a more technical recommendation for, or maybe background on the apps that are being recommended so that I can provide a more educated response to their inquiry back from mine?
Are you asking this about people using EDPass or just about in general your own applications?
My in general, my two-factor. So the multi-factor, I set it up to use the text, but it suggests that you use two. So out of the other remaining options, I was trying to figure out which of those would be my best path to not violate any policy agreements?
That's a good question. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. What would be a good backup? Jess and Alex, let's put down a note. We need to talk to RSI people. Just to confirm before I give you an answer and make sure
That's
that it's
fine.
valid.
That's
Whenever
fine.
you
I
get into
appreciate it.
whenever we get into security areas, I like to tread lightly.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Thanks, Barb. So we're just going to shift back over to the Q&A panel. Sammy from Mississippi, we did receive your question. I will personally reach out to you and help you with that. This is Justin, by the way. We have a question from Melissa in Nevada. I have uploaded our 22-23 directory file. It says upload successful. I don't see where we are to finalize the submission. Great question. You will be able to submit data to the system on April 5th. Data can be submitted when all levels of required data are in a required to submit status. For now, you'll want to upload school and LEA level data and respond to any errors if they arise. So basically that functionality will be enabled within the next few weeks. We have a question from Dana in Maryland. Going back to the privacy policy that needs to be shared, I can't seem to locate it within the EDPass user guide. Could you please provide a page number of where this information is located? Great question. It's actually not in the EDPass user guide. It's located in the EDPass account management guide in the new EDPass documentation section. We do have the EDPass user guide and account management guide uploaded to the initiative's website. You can access that information from the initiative's website directly. Going back to piggybacking off of Melissa's in Nevada's question, she also mentioned, do we have to have all levels at upload successful? Sorry about that. Before we can finalize. The answer to that is yes, you must have all levels in the status of ready to submit, and we'll be able to actually submit in EDPass on April 5th, 2023. And that is all the questions that we have in the Q&A panel at this time. And just to reiterate again, we're here until 3 p.m. If there's any other questions that states have, please feel free to add in the Q&A panel or please raise your hand.
So after 3 p.m., I know this is probably something you already know, but if it's after 3 and you're like, uh-oh, I have a question or I need some help, please reach out because PSC is here to help you through this. We know it's a new system and everybody's adjusting to changes. So don't ever hesitate to contact PSC and we're more than happy to assist you.
While we're waiting, does anyone have any questions at all regarding defining roles that we can help with? Anything in particular? Please feel free to raise your hand or add in the Q&A panel, please.
Hey, Linda. Looks like you've raised your hand again, so I'll go ahead and give you the option to unmute and ask your question.
Sorry.
Hey, no worries, no worries.
So I was just typing, and since you made the offer, let me just stop typing. I began with keeping in mind that I am new to this, so that everybody knows. Some of my questions are, newbie questions, completely new to the role. Did users in the past to the applications Eden and anywhere else that metadata was put in, did they already have access to those applications? And is there a way for me to retrieve any existing accounts that may already exist to those applications?
So I can step in here.
Okay.
Sorry for the delay. So yes, folks did have access to those prior applications, those metadata surveys. We can provide you a list
Ugh,
of who with your state had that access.
that would be awesome.
Yeah. So that would be a great. I can mark you down, and we'll follow up after today's session and
Thank
pull
you.
that information for you.
Oh, that is awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Great question, Linda. And just keep in mind, we are definitely here to help you have a smooth transition. Going back to the Q&A panel, we have a question from Brian in Wyoming. Do the LEA and school level files need to be submitted in a specific order in EDPass? Great question. Yes, that order is listed in the EDPass user guide. It is dependent on charter schools. This is laid out in section 3.2 of the user guide, not the account management guide. And that question was basically for the directory files. So the answer remains the same. Section 3.2. That is all the questions that we have now. We do see a question from Jana in Minnesota. We are currently answering that now. So once we have an answer for that, we'll transition back to that question and answer that for you and everyone else.
And also don't forget, if anyone would like to see the system live, Justin is on deck to show you. So just don't hesitate to speak up if you'd like to see it.
Going back to the Q&A, we do have a question, an answer, excuse me, for Jana. She mentions, might you have a brief cheat sheet for users to operate in EDPass that also includes essential information? Are they able to create an EDPass account right now and adjust to the system? Answer to that is there is a high-level process overview in 1.5 of the user guide for process flow. Yes, EDPass accounts can be created at this time. So please feel free to reference that user guide section. Just to piggyback on that answer, 1.5 is actually a high-level overview, and then the sections of the user guide provide detailed information. While we're waiting, we were also wondering, does anyone have any positive feedback, any thoughts about EDPass thus far that might have been in the system earlier today? We did open it up at 8 a.m. Eastern time today. Just wondering if there's any positive feedback, um, any type of feedback whatsoever. We do see some states processing files, some creating roles and users. Any type of feedback anyone has for us? Has anyone uploaded a file and moved on from role creation and user creation? Maybe we've just gotten past that and uploaded a file or anything?
And again, if you wanted to log off of here and go try, or even stay on here and try, we will be here to help you. Oh, it looks like Fawn has uploaded a few files, so that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Hey everyone, this is Justin again. We do have a question from Reed in Oklahoma. Um, Question is, we have coordinators that are responsible for the metadata, but their supervisor needs to be contacted, reminded of this also. That way, if the coordinator is out for vacation, when the notices go out, then their supervisor would get a notice also. Would that be the view role for the supervisor? Also, are these emails going to be used for contact informational purposes? This is a great question, Reed. You could provide the user with view permissions, but if they need to be a backup in the event that someone is out of office, they need to have metadata permissions. Keep in mind, roles can be edited at any time. So if someone needs to submit metadata at the last minute, you as the SEA EDPass manager can change the role to provide the permissions needed. SEA EdFax coordinators are also assigned the SEA EdPass manager role, allowing them to also submit metadata as needed. Hey everyone, Justin here again. We just have another question from Linda in Virginia. Um, Basically, her question is about the security key option. Where would you purchase a security key to be used for this MFA alternative? Is it just a flash drive reformatted? I know you were already researching, so I just wanted to add this specific detail. Again, Linda, great question. We will add this to our conversations and provide a response collectively. Hey everyone, we have another question from Linda in Virginia. With regard to security access levels, if you change a user who only has view access to temporarily be allowed to enter a data node, will you have to remove the view access, or do they work independently? This is a great question. These functionalities are maintained in roles. You would update their role to allow resolve DQ permission, and then if you wanted to revoke that access, simply update the role. Keep in mind, if the role is assigned to multiple individuals, the permissions update across all assigned users. And just to piggyback on that, you should retain view access. Again, we are here till 3 p.m. Eastern Time. If you have any other questions, please feel free to raise your hand or please add into the Q&A panel. Thank you.
This is Barbara again, who's the system owner. In the account manager's guide, so there's two guides out there, one on EDPass and one is strictly on the account management. In the back, we have a recommendation that you create a grid of the roles and what access they have, so to help you manage the roles. Again, it is a new approach of you're managing two things together. One is the role, which is what access to data areas and functionalities the people assigned to that role have. And then secondly, you're managing which people get which roles. And we do realize this is a different way of thinking that we've done in the past. And we're open to what reports you need out of the system that would help you manage those roles and those users. But we do recommend you go to the back of that guide and begin to use that matrix to make sure you have everything covered and that you understand what access you've given to the various individuals.
Hey everyone, looks like Lila from Vermont has a question. I just uploaded the LEA directory for type 3 LEAs and I have file error. Where do I go to see the error? Can't seem to get where I can view them. Okay, so let me actually pull up my screen and I can show you that. Give me a few seconds here. Again, I'm just bringing up my screen to share that. Give me a few seconds. All right, perfect. Everyone should see my screen. I'm using just a default Alaska account here. Just give me a few seconds. Okay, so you can actually, this is what you would see when you log in as an SEA EDPass manager. You simply go over here to the top right, click upload, and depending on which file, assuming it's probably a newer one that you've uploaded, you simply just go to the right. There's a kebab menu here. As you can see, this would probably be the verbiage you're looking for, file error for that one. These are just test files that we used. And you can just click the kebab menu and click file errors. And this is where you would view it. So you can click view details. This is a rule ID here. You would just bring up the BRSI 2223. This is a new error. That's for EDPass. There should be a column in Excel for you to filter on the EDPass error to identify what that is. You can click view details and it'll essentially show you which ones that are firing that error.
If you have any questions about that, Lila, just let us know. Justin can either bring it up again or someone can from PSE can reach out and help you. So just don't be afraid to speak up.
Hey everyone, Justin here again. We do have another question from Linda in Virginia. In the account management appendix, does the 10.1 verification grid contain a complete list of function areas to date? Am I to understand that once I identify a point person for each data area listed, even if it is me, that I will have all areas covered, or are there more? A great question, Linda. That is actually all of the data areas. They include multiple file specifications, but those are all of them for reference. Lila, we do see your follow-up question that there's no kebab appearing at the right of where the file error is showing. I will actually reach out to you at the end of this training and take a look with you. In the meantime, if you want to just go ahead and send me a screenshot to our EDFax email, and you can put attention to me. That can basically help me to see what you're seeing. We can go from there.
Candy, I see your hand is raised. I just gave you access to unmute yourself. Hey, Candy, can't quite hear you. If you could try again. Oh, I think we lost you.
Me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. What it is about that first attempt, it's not working. Okay, I have a quick question. I am the format checker. So I ran through my files and they both say headers good. But my LEA is uploaded successfully, but I have a format error on my school file. And when I look at the error, I'm kind of confused. I'm thinking this when I look at view the details, because there's 3 errors that come up. The operational status, because I have a school that is reopened. And it says, but my school NCS does not match my school identifier NCS in the current or prior year with effective operational status school closed. So I went into Eden and looked at it and they're the same. So I'm not sure why I'm getting this error on my school file. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Could you repeat the error that you're receiving?
Well, there's a couple of them, but the first one says FMTE 0026. Effective operational status. School is reopened, an 8, but the school identifier NCS does not match the school identifier NCS in the current or prior year, or I'm sorry, in the current or prior school year with effective operational status school closed. So I think it's trying to say that my NCS ID, my school NCS ID does not match when I first closed it a few years ago. So I went into Eden and I looked it up. I brought the school up and it matches the exact NCS because I looked at the NCS school ID in my file versus the school NCS ID that was, it was from 2019-20 if you need to know, or I can give you an ID. But it's Glendale Center and it's the NCS ID is exactly the same.
Candy, this is Barbara. What about the LEA? Is it the same LEA NCS
Same
ID?
LEA, yes, same LEA, and the LEA file went through. And the school
Okay.
LEA that I have in here, hold on, I got the file open. Hold on, make sure I got the right row. Yeah. Going back, let me look. 02246, 02246. Then the NCS ID is 21001650. Same.
Candy, this is Jess. Did the LEA exist in 21-22 directory?
Yeah, it still exists.
Okay, so
yeah.
I think the issue is that you're trying to reopen an older school in the 22-23 school year, but EDPass, so we've got to figure out how to load that school. So I'm going to create a ticket for you because basically EDPass in the environment that you're uploading the file, it doesn't talk to ESS right now. So it's trying to compare, it's trying to look for that old reopened in NCES ID or school IDs, but it doesn't exist in EDPass. So
Oh,
we've got to load, I've got to figure out what to do on the technical side. So can you do me a favor and just send us an email with all the information of the school you're attempting to reopen? And I will figure it out on our end with both Barb and our technical team.
Right. Who do you want me to send it to?
Oh,
Please.
just send it to edfax@PSC. Yeah. We'll get a ticket number assigned and we'll get it escalated.
Just the edfax at ed.gov, that one?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Perfect. I'll send it. Thank you.
Yes, perfect. Sorry you experienced that, but perfect learning curve for us.
Yeah,
so.
and might as well learn it now.
We'll get back to you. We'll give you a ticket number and then we'll get back to you in the next, hopefully today, but if not today, we're working on it.
Thank you.
While I'm here, I'm like half typing Linda's response. So I don't want Linda to think I'm not, I don't see her question. I'll type this up, but for Linda, your, question about entering data notes. So Justin will bring up his screen, but folks that have data note at the resolve data quality permission, they will have the same screen as you because you have permissions for everything. But if they only have the resolve data quality permission, you'll want to give them the view access. So keep that in mind so that they can see the SSP and so they can see the data if they need to validate the error they're getting. But they'll have an edit button on that data note screen. I'll have Justin kind of walk it through. But just keep in mind that data notes aren't active right now. So they can look at them. Anyone can look at data notes with view access, but nobody can enter a data note until this coming Monday. So I just wanted to keep that in the forefront of folks' mind.
Thanks, Jess. All right, cool. Give me a few seconds here. I'm just gonna grab the presenter role on my end and I'll show you what that looks like. Certainly appreciate everyone's patience. Okay, great. So we're back in the Alaska environment. So if you want, basically where you would go to view that, you would just simply go to your data submission list up here, top right. Up, a second. I think it probably froze out on me. Give me a few seconds here. Sorry about that. Give me 1 second. All right, we're back in action. Okay, so basically what you would do, you would just go up here to data submission list. Okay, and we'll wait for it to load. Okay, great. So we would just go over here to the far right to the kebab menu. We would click SSP, the state submission plan. And this is where the data notes would be enabled. So as you can see here, on the far right is where you would add the data notes at. As mentioned, that should be enabled next Monday, but this is where you would go to add that.
I see our list of attendees is slowly going down. I'm assuming you guys are working on creating roles and defining them. And I know that before, as leading up to today's go live, there were some states that contacted PSC just asking general questions about user roles. So I think one of the ways to really think of roles, and I think Linda, this was explained earlier, is really to just keep in mind that, you know, right now, if you can't define a role for a whole staff, it's okay. You really need to focus on CCD roles and allowing the users who need access to the system right now to have the permissions. You can always change roles later and give some time to think through them as we kind of get through EdPass and you guys get your processes in place. And processes can change. I know Courtney mentioned earlier in her presentation that there are some states that don't, you know, they have a single process right now where it funnels everything through the EdFacts coordinator. But EdPass is designed to allow states to offer different functionalities and responsibilities to users. So if you have folks that currently review the CDQR spreadsheets, for example, think about, you know, if they're providing you data notes and you're collectively, you know, adding them to one master spreadsheet, you could use that permission, that resolve data quality permission, to assign that out to users. And then they can enter data quality notes. They can't submit data if you don't give them the submit functionality, but they can at least enter the data note and take that off your plate. And then you could go through and review the data notes. That's just one suggestion of something that's different in EdPass and why it's designed the way it is. So I don't know if anyone has questions or thoughts, even just how you just defined roles or what you're thinking through. You're happy to share those here if you want with other EdFacts coordinators who may be struggling with that process. And if not, that's okay too. We have just a few minutes left. Just if maybe you're sitting there thinking through things, feel free to come off mute and talk through it.
Hey, Candy. See your hand raised. Just gave you the ability to unmute yourself. All right. Looks like you're unmuted. If you want to go ahead and ask your question.
I have a quick question. So earlier there was someone made a comment that be in the same page at the same time. Is that right? So if you have two managers, both loading files.
Yes, it's concurrency. You can do that.
Okay. So what is it we can't do? Like what page? What are you talking about?
Well, the system can run concurrently. So it can run on the same page. Users can run on the same page at the same time. The one thing you just want to be afraid of is that they can, if they're both responding, which should be pretty rare, but if two people are responding to a data, like updating the SSP, for example, the system's going to keep the most recent one.
Okay.
So right now, you guys can't access it yet, but on April 5th, when the user activity page will go live, and the user activity page, it'll be preloaded through today. But that will help in case there are any issues where two users were in the system at the same time. You can track, whoever hit save last. But
Right. Okay, that shouldn't be that big of a deal.
yeah, but that user activity page will help in those instances where you're just not sure who did what. Where, if you're having multiple folks uploading files, the upload page does not show the actual user that uploaded it. However, the user activity page will show what user uploaded what file, and it will show the file name. So you can track that down if you're trying to figure out, if there was an error with the file.
Right.
Yeah, whatever it may be. Not that someone did something wrong, but if you're just trying to track it.
Okay. Perfect. That's all I needed. Thank you.
Sure. Uh-huh. So I know we're getting down to the last final minutes. I'm not sure if there's anyone else that has any questions and you just haven't requested to come off mute yet. Please feel free to do so. But after 3 o'clock today, PC is available. We are online supporting inquiries as they come in. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. For any reason, we encourage folks to open the user guide because it does have step-by-step instructions. But if not, you still can't figure something out, we're here and we're available. So feel free to email us and we will assist. I'm going to mute for just a couple more minutes before we close everything up.
Just a quick reminder, as we're wrapping up, for the folks that are still on, we do have the technical office hours each day this week as we have launched today. So please feel free to join those as we do those each day this week.
Okay, so it, looks like we are down to only 8. We want to thank everybody for joining today, and we hope to see you in the office hours this week. And if you have any questions, please contact PSC.